Hello there, this is Kai, the anime zoomer.
And this is Nikolai, the manga boomer.
In today's episode, we will talk about villains. We will split this episode in two different segments. The first segment is about the anatomy of villains, and the second one is a tier list where we rank self-picked villains. So, let's get evil and start this episode.
Yes.
First of all,
Oh, sorry.
I have a question. No problem. Why are villains so important?
Villains and antagonists, we need to explain the difference later, oppose the protagonist and often are hindering the protagonist for fulfilling his goals or are even a mirror of the protagonist in terms of morals. So if a protagonist wants to stand for good values and do good deeds, the villain is doing the opposite, bring pain and being evil. Plus,
So,
at least for me in most stories, if the story has a good villain, it's really good. I don't know a story with a good villain which is shit or which I don't like.
Yes, true. The villain is basically there to crush the protagonist and to get some tension and to evolve the protagonist even further, to strengthen the character development in the protagonist.
Yes, the villain challenges the beliefs and morals of a protagonist. Or what is also an interesting concept, the villain is a quote-unquote failed version of a protagonist. I think, for example, in Naruto, Pain and Naruto are great examples. Because both had the same sensei who told them in theory the same values, but one of those, Pain, got transformed through the evil and the pain that he saw in the world and became evil. While Naruto fights to bring peace to the world and stands for good values. So they are a mirror from each other. Two persons who started at the same path but reach different endpoints.
Yes. But there are also villains that started off as the protagonist. And you could already guess who it is. It's Eren and also Lelouch.
We can say in general as good characters.
They were the protagonists at the start of the series, and over the time they turned evil, or it looks evil to the viewer.
They had a change in beliefs, morals. Yes, those
and
are.
that's also.
Sorry, you can go
on. Yes, and I like those kind of villains that are actually good at the start and then over the time had some change of their beliefs and turned evil. Or maybe it looks evil what they are doing, but they actually do what they think is right.
Yes, those tend to be good because there is some character change and character progression. Progression in a negative sense, but still progression. And character progression is always good and needed.
Yes. So you can go ahead.
I want to talk the other way around. There are also characters who are supposedly villains, but are actually the good guys. Because they played a kind of charade or were double agents. The most famous example is Itachi from Naruto. That plot twist was so great, it's so insane. When he was a little youngling, this was peak writing. They had known nothing else. It's still one of the best plot twists.
I actually thought Itachi was evil too, and they knew he was actually good.
Yes. It's hard to guess that he's actually a good guy.
Yes, but we have some few over the course of anime series that are actually evil portrayed, but are actually good. Do we have some other examples right now off the bat?
I mean, you can argue that, for example, Katakuri isn't per se evil. I mean, he kills people, which is an evil deed, but he does it in a good cause, or he believes he does it in a good cause, to protect his family.
Yeah.
And in Whole Cake, he fights Luffy because Luffy is someone who invaded the territory of his family. So I think that also can't be seen as per se evil. He's an antagonist who opposes Luffy, but not because he's a mustache twirling evil villain.
Yep. That's true.
Antagonist is also a good word, because I think there are differences between villain and antagonist. Because a villain is clearly evil, morally wrong, and wrong in his doings, but an antagonist just opposes the protagonist.
Yes. It's a huge difference, actually.
Yes, for example, like sports series don't mostly have a villain, but they have a person who plays a kind of antagonistic role because he opposes the main character or stands in their way and needs to be overcome.
Yes, but not confuse it with rivalry.
Yes, but there are some sports series where you also have an antagonist.
Yes.
Do you have any other topic, or should I talk about one?
You can go on, and I will go to my next then.
Okay. Now I want to talk about flashbacks. Because some of the greatest villains are those villains that we understand. And to understand a villain, or a character that is not our central protagonist, a flashback is probably needed. So, do you know any villains with great flashbacks? Where we can at least understand where they came from?
Baby, Senior Baby who had a great backstory,
You
and
mean Senor Pink?
Senior Pink, yeah.
You mixed him with Baby Five, the other girl.
He looks hilarious, but when you get to know his backflash, oh, it was very painful, actually.
Yes. I had also a person in mind who's from the same series and from the same arc. It's Dofi.
Yeah.
He's also clearly evil, but I think we can at least understand after his flashback where he's coming from and why his morals are twisted like they are. That makes him, at least for me, probably the best villain of One Piece.
Yes. True. Other flashback. I mean, every bad people has, or a lot of bad people have a backflash. Do you know other shows where the villain had a great backflash? Flashback?
Flashback,
Yeah,
yes.
flashback.
I mean, often in Shonen, the villain has flashbacks. I think Eisen from Bleach is a great example. Because he found out that there's basically no godly thing or nothing above the humans, and because of that, he was disappointed and tried to become a god. It was a very nihilistic take, but I can at least understand where he was coming from. Eisen is also a great famous villain. He's also connected with a point that you've talked previously about. It's a quote unquote good character becoming a villain. But in Eisen's case, it was quite different. Because he was a wolf among the sheeps. A guy who was supposedly good, but actually was a villain and had a secret plan. And then was revealed that he was evil all along. Do you know any other examples or similar stories?
Right off the bat, I actually don't have anything in mind, to be honest.
Happens.
Yeah, if you have watched a lot of anime, then you have too much in your head about anime, and stuff like this can be forgotten pretty easily.
Yes,
But I think,
the best example
um,
is names.
yeah.
Because I saw a funny
Yes.
meme last time. That's why I interrupted you. There were
Mm,
two books. One book was a really big chunker, like 3,000 pages. There was standing on top of it animated I've watched. And on the right side of it, there was a little book with like 100 pages with character names that I've remembered. That's a classical anime experience. Watch over 1,000
mm,
animes, just remember 100 names.
yeah, that's true.
Now you can go on.
Um, I think Demon Slayer has some pretty heartbreaking flashbacks. Example,
This discussion.
I mean, the demons had a sad backstory too.
Yes.
Even demons were human once, and they had some tragic experience in their lives, and you actually feel sorry for them. For example, you can name Louis the Spider Devil, which
Yes.
got abused by his parents and stuff.
So I have a problem with those. They are per se not bad, but they are kind of useless in the end. Because they don't change the plot.
Yes.
But they are written, not badly written. Even though, as the number one Demon Slayer hater, I have to admit this. They fulfill
Yes.
their job getting you emotional,
Mm.
even though they are useless.
And you actually feel sorry for the demons, so they do their part. Yes. But another thing related to backflash is also deaths, because a lot of backflash comes before the death. So some heartbreaking deaths of villains. How could this be possible?
Not villains, but also loved ones from the villains, which, because of that, they dove into villainhood. Great example is again from Naruto, Obito, where his wife who got killed and he became evil because of that, because he hated the world after that.
Mm, I mean, understandable. Yes. But I wanted to talk about how they are defeated in most of the cases. Like, is it some ass pull or something?
In most shonens, probably
Yes.
when a random power up comes, or when a villain is too strong.
Mm, so they got nerfed by the author.
Yes, or somehow forgot that they had the power.
Mm,
A great example is Bleach again. You know what Bankai is, right?
yes.
And you know that Aizen is the most Giga Chat in Bleach, was one of the strongest characters. But bro lost in the end without using his Bankai. You've read I've read like 55 volumes of Bleach and don't know what Aizen's Bankai is. And it is not getting revealed in the rest of the manga. It's like, oh, Kaido lost but hasn't used his hybrid transformation. That kind of nerf.
Okay. I see. But there are actually some villains that got deft in a good way. Do you know good deaths of villains?
I have a great example which is not from a manga, so I don't know if I should, or an anime, so I don't know if I should talk about it.
Go ahead.
One of the greatest deaths from villains is from The Dark Knight, where you had this lawyer, which becomes Two-Face, a villain, who got
Mm,
corrupted by Joker. And Joker wants to show that everyone is evil. So he took this lawyer Harvey Dent, the biggest white knight, the goodest of good persons, and corrupted him. And in the
mm,
end, Batman, a person who his moral codex is, I don't kill. He doesn't. He was put to the choice either you kill this villain, Two Face, or let Officer Gordon and his family die. So in the end, Batman had to kill Two Face or he died in an accident. And because of that, Joker proved that everyone is evil. Because both of the greatest characters in Gotham broke their morals. So
mm,
that was a good death of a villain. Do you have any other examples?
mm. Per se, I don't know. Mm,
There's one I think you can talk about. We talked earlier
let's see.
about some good characters who became the villain. Two of them.
Oh, yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
both of them have a tragic end.
Yes. Lelouch. So basically, at the first glance, you thought, oh my God, he's fighting for his country. He's so cool. And then he does some things. And in the end, he gets himself killed by his best friend to free his country, basically. So it's basically a full death.
Yes.
Because everyone was scared of him. He got the new emperor of Japan, and everyone was scared of him. He
Because
knew
power
he
can
had,
corrupt people easily.
and he knew there's only one way to free the peoples, and it is to die. So he lets himself get killed by his best friend to free the people,
A
which
martyrdom.
mm, which was a very, very good death.
Good death. He's a fan of bows, I see.
And Eren Yeager is similar to Lelouch. He does things to free the people of his country. And he does things that are very questionable, but he does what
Thus.
he thinks is what's right for the people of his country. So
Yes.
you can see their morals and beliefs are somewhat similar,
True.
and the deaths aren't in vain. Yeah.
So, up until now, we've mostly talked about singular persons as villains. But there can also be villainous organizations, or, for example, concepts or even concepts or groups that are antagonistic. For example, you mentioned Code Geass. You can say that, for example, the royalty of Britannia, was it right? That
Yes.
this is an evil organization that Lelouch needed to face, and with that, the concept of nobility and monarchy is an evil thing.
Mm.
So, do you have any other concepts that are used or being portrayed as evil or great organizations of villains?
Of course, you can say the Yakuza in anime in general are always portrayed as bad people and stuff.
Yes, especially in R-rated seinen.
Mm. Um, the Marines are portrayed evil in One Piece,
Yes,
basically. Yeah, and you have so much other stuff.
yes, to flip the world government.
You have the Japanese hunter association, which is evil.
Solo leveling, yes.
Yes. And many more. There are
Yes, you can
a lot
also
of.
say basically every evil pirate crew in One Piece, or every villainous orc, or every villainous orc that has a structure. For example, the demons in Demon Slayer also tend to work together or have at least a structure where they have one big boss and everyone is under the boss and working kinda together at times.
Mm. Yes.
I think the best depiction for me of an evil concept is in Innocent, where we have power, decadence, and nobility. Because for example, Marie Antoinette and the decadence of the French nobility court. The whole city and the whole nobility got corrupted through decadence. And the whole populace was in bad shape because of it. Because nobody has money, all the prices were spiking, everything was dirty besides Versailles, and the nobility abused everyone. And Innocent portrays this decadence really well as something evil.
I see.
And another thing that Innocent, for example, does well is in historical things, you always have traditions as something evil. For example, when you have your traditional father who is the antagonist. When you have, for example, a young aspiring lady who wants to do a job, but in historical settings, women can't do a job. They need to marry, get children, and do housework, nothing else.
Mm.
And because of that, the father who is strict and wants to keep up with this tradition is also mostly portrayed evil as well. Innocent great example as well, where Marie Josephine wants to be an executioner, a man's work, obviously.
I don't know.
You need to read some manga. It's goated. Because this won't get an anime.
Okay.
Now, to go to a topic where you can also talk about, as we've talked about the endings of villains, but what
Mm.
about the introduction of villains? Because a villain needs to make a strong first impression. Because if you introduce a villain and he looks not scary, then nobody's going to take this guy seriously.
Mm.
So most villains need to have a banger introduction, the great first stand. Do you know any examples for a good villain introduction?
Mm. I can't think of any. I haven't watched shonen in a long time.
A great example, even though the villain in the end was kinda mid, is Kaido. Kaido's introduction is such a cool scene where he jumps off a sky island.
Yeah, true. Mm.
Or where it was per se not the introduction of a Gorosei, but when they were coming and transforming, it was the introduction for how they fight and that they can summon each other in Egghead.
True. Yeah.
And another example, if Loki is a villainous, is his first panel where he got introduced. Or where the panel where he was standing up, you know which I mean, right? Where he looks menacing.
Yes.
So if Loki becomes a villain, that would be a good introduction for a villain.
Mm.
Then, before we start with the tier list now, let's
Mm.
talk about. I have one question finally
Yes.
before we start with tier list. What makes a good villain in general for you? Or what kind of villains are your favorites? For example, do you like villains who are plotting in the background and you rarely see them? Or do you want active villains we are seeing every few episodes? Do you want villains who are fighters? Do you want villains who are chess players, for example, who play chess with humans?
I like those villains more that are playing chess. So they are calculating and yeah, they are manipulating people to get to make their moves. I like those villains the most. What about you? What is your favorite type?
I like the unpredictable kind of villains. Good examples are Dracula from DSCL or Sato. You don't know what they are going to do, but when they are on screen, they are going to do something hype and unpredictable, and your jaws dropping to the floor, and you are stunned. Those are villains that I like because the stories that they are in tend to be wild, because they're always suspenseful and you don't know what they are doing, but they're going to do something. There's only forward, no backward. This sounded wrong, but you know what I wanted to say.
Hmm.
And the kind of villains that I don't like is the villains that are there, but are doing jack shit. They just come in the end for one or two fights and that's it. I think those are lame.
True. Yeah.
The villain should have a constant presence.
Hmm.
And obviously, we talked about it earlier, a connection with the main character, or at least should be the opposite of the morals of the main character. So there's a connection because of that.
Hmm. Yes, of course.
Like for example, Arjun is another great example. Like our MC is actually the kind of villain that you described. He's not a villain, but he's a kind of chess player who likes to read people, he's smart, and always plans something. And then we have Sato, who's crazy and just do whatever he wants because he likes to do his shit. And because of that, they are polar opposites. And it's hard for the main character to predict what Sato's going to do. And I can understand the main character struggle because I also can predict what Sato's going to do. That's why he's the GOAT. So I mentioned that already Sato is my favorite villain.
Hmm.
Who's your favorite villain?
I per se don't have a favorite villain. I
The trivial
wouldn't count.
question.
Yes, I wouldn't count one out actually, because there are a lot of great villains in anime, and yeah, I don't want to count one out. It wouldn't be unfair to the other ones.
I see.
Hmm.
That's a question quite nicely. Do you have any other things that you dislike about villains or that make a villain whack?
Um, I I don't like this guy from JJK, the best friend of Gojo, that much.
Geto?
Geto, yeah, he's a fraudster.
You mean the real Geto or how was his name? The guy who possessed
Uh,
Geto's body.
yeah, the real Geto.
For me, it's kind of the other way around. I don't like the other guy. Because I thought Geto had a good flashback, or backflash, like you say, and a good connection with Gojo and believable motivation at least. And then everything was basically fake because he was another person. But the other person
Hmm.
randomly had the same beliefs as Geto, which was kind of
Yeah,
stupid.
okay. Yeah, I mean both are wacky.
Wasted in the end, yes.
Hmm.
I have another type of quote unquote villain that I don't like.
Hmm.
It's the villain that is just there so that the protagonist or the other shonen characters have something to fight. The random characters that spawn just that there's a fight. With no personality, no backstory, no nothing.
Like, for example?
In Fairy Tail or One Piece, a lot of random people are spawning who are just here to be beaten.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
Like the Flying Six, for example, from Kaido, or every antagonistic group of Fairy Tail, where we have filler guys who just make one strong attack and then get one shot at the end. Or
True.
noticed. Those are whack.
Hmm.
At least if you make people who are just there to be fought, then make cool fights. Like the stand yours from JoJo. Some of them pop out randomly, but at least the fights against them are cool.
Hmm. Jesus. So are you done with this point?
Yes, you can go on with your next point.
Let's talk about iconic villain moments. Like moments that you have in your head when you think about iconic villain moments.
Yes. One moment that's iconic for me is Dracula from DRCL, where he goes into the chapel. And the beginning also. It's just he was so menacing, so overpowering, I was kinda scared for him. So the horror manga actually did its job and scared its reader because of the villain. So that was great. Because he was using his godly powers basically to smite away our protagonist. Because they were saying, oh yeah, there are rules against vampires, go in the church, use silver, use garlic, and so on. But Dracula was too powerful and wiped the asses of our protagonists. This was really scary.
Hmm. I would say from Black Clover when they were fighting the elves people, and how is this guy called? The leader of the elves. Was he called Shadow Light? Something?
I know who you mean.
Yes. I don't remember his name.
He was the elf who also had one of Asta's swords, right?
Hmm.
This guy.
This guy.
Yes.
Yes. His change of heart was also very iconic. Where he helped the people to fight the bigger evil, the devil.
Yes. But
Very.
connected with that, there's
Hmm.
also one thing I find quite meh. It doesn't have anything to do with the scene, so you can finish your point first.
No, I'm finished with it.
Okay. What I don't like is a villain behind a villain, basically. It's like, you know those Russian figures where always another figure is inside the box. There are
Yes,
some shows who does
Matroshka.
this right. Genau, yes. There are some shows who does this writing. Black Clover and Naruto are good examples. For example, in Black Clover, you have the elves. But, oh, the elves were manipulated by the devil. Shocking. And in Naruto, you had, oh, you had Pain, but Pain was manipulated by Obito. And, oh, Obito was manipulated by Madara. And, oh, Madara was manipulated by Setsu. Come on, guys, this is dumb. Just have one villain and don't introduce a bigger villain who manipulated the previous villain. It's dumb writing.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
And I think for me, otherwise, some of the most iconic moments are actually when the villain, for example, not wins, but is making some significant progress towards his plans or achieving even his goals. Good example for One Piece is Whitebeard's death. And Blackbeard actually gets the Quake fruit. That's an
Mm,
iconic moment.
yes.
Or when Kaido wanters Luffy for the first time. This was definitely
Mm,
a moment.
Yes.
Or in Naruto when you have Madara who solos for 5 Kage. For the uninitiated, Kage are basically like marine admirals. Let's say it like that. And then
Okay.
a guy spawns who's overpowered and just solos them. There's this really funny
Ah,
moment where the Kage are saying, they're confident because they are 5 against 1. And then says Madara, oh, but look at me, I can make clones of myself, and now I am 30 against 5. Then he flexes him away. This is really funny.
I
So
see. I see.
now we will make a quick villain tier list in the end. We have tried to use villains that we both know, but there are a few exceptions. And we've also tried to not use as many villains from one series. I think 2 is the maximum which we have per series.
Mm,
We have 2 from JoJo's, 2 from One Piece, and 2 from JJK, for example. And
yes.
as categories, we have peak, good, average, fraud, and ass. Then shall we begin?
Yes.
The first villain is I picked him, and we also picked like 7 or 8 villains, so we both picked an equal number. I picked the first villain, which is Askeladd. I mean, we both know where he's going. He's a peak
Mm,
villain.
yes.
He's probably one of the greatest villains because at first he's kinda whack, but in the end you understand his goal that he's just trying to fight for the people, for the fellow Welshmen, and why he hates the Vikings. Plus, he's a
Mm,
great antagonist towards Thorfinn, towards his rage, but he's also one of the villains that is sympathetic and you kinda want that they win, or at least you don't want that he dies. So his death in the
yes.
end was really
Yes.
tragic. Also, a good example where for villain deaths that we've talked about before, we could have clearly mentioned him.
Mm, yep.
So, peak villain.
So let's go on to our next forgotten villain, which is Bodos from One Punch Man. And yeah, I mean he's not ass, but he's definitely a fraud. He spawned out of nowhere, but then got one punched by One Punch Man.
Yes, he's basically the villain that spawned just to be beaten. I
Yes.
mean, he has kind of a similar backstory to like Saitama, that he's one of the strongest guys and always wants to fight someone that is stronger, fight some challenge, but it was so quick and so short. Fraud is definitely good. The next one, I think here we're going to have some differences.
Mm,
We are also, when we're having differences, we are taking the average place. So, for example, if I put him in fraud and you put him in peak, something between good and average. So we
mm,
have Dio Brando. Do we talk Dio in general or just part 3 Dio?
mm. Let's only talk about part 3.
Because part 3 Dio is not good. He does nothing and chills in his lair and is in the end just there to be beaten. All of his
Mm,
character building and stuff that we like about him is in part 1. Because in part 1 I think he's a solid antagonist and he has a solid connection and relationship with Jonathan was in part 1, right? Or,
yes.
yes, Jonathan. But in part 3, he just sends his henchmen. But in the end, he has aura and voice acting. That's what he has and means, and that's what people like about him. But if you just look at him, how he's written and how he's used in part 3, he's a fraud.
I would go with average because, I mean, yes, he is not doing anything. He just sends in his lackeys for Jotaro and his guys. But the fight was cool with Jotaro, and I enjoyed the fight with Jotaro, so I will go with average.
We can put him in the end of average. Because he and Boris are kind of the same. Just guys who are there to be beaten, but he's at least memorable.
Yeah.
So, the next guy, Doflamingo from One Piece. We've talked
Hmm.
about that he is our favorite One Piece villain, so that he's quite high. And we already talked about that his flashback was really good. Do you have any other things that make Doflamingo a standout in One Piece?
He wanted to murder the whole island.
Birdcage.
Yes. Have it go with good.
Yes, same for me.
I liked his backstory and everything. He was a very cool villain, but
He's quite
yeah.
menacing. He has like Dio,
Hmm.
an kind of insane aura. He's also very
Yes.
eccentric. Plus, I like about Dofi that he's actually kind of involved in a lot of arcs, or
Yes.
at least his organization is present.
Hmm.
For example, I think the first time he was mentioned was in also a city called again Jaya, where Bellamy was in his crew. I think. I think this was the first time that he was mentioned.
Yes, I think so too. Yes,
So
Chaya.
so he's kind of like Dio from in terms of personality, but actually more active and with a good backstory.
Hmm.
So my next villain is a one that you don't know, and for villains that the other one don't know, we need to convince the other guy from our placement. So we have Dracula from DRCL. For me, Dracula is one of the best introductions because the first chapter from DRCL it's really good. It's so atmospheric. It's peak horror. He's also like Dio and Dofi, very eccentric. And you can see it in the picture. He's posing Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson doing JoJo poses, basically. So he has definitely aura. He also, when he traverses, he either transforms into a huge bat or rides a slate like Santa Claus, but with dogs. So he's also a funny guy. And he's also really powerful and turns people into vampire. And because of Dracula, you know the Dracula backstory. That he's a count from Transylvania. So there's also some backstory there. But yes, said he has only 3 volumes, so I need to wait how it's handled in the manga. And because of that, yes, he just has 3 volumes. I will put him in good. He has the potential to be a peak villain.
Okay.
Can you understand my take or kind of meh?
Yeah, go on. I'm fine with it. I don't know him, so I can't
He's,
judge.
but the next one, it's N from Doro.
Hmm.
You the season one ended with N's death, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk after that. But I think even though until his death, N is a cool villain because he's menacing, he's powerful, and he serves a great plot twist because his death is kind of shocking and comes out of nowhere. Also,
Hmm.
good villain death that we could have mentioned before. So
Yes, but in my mind, he didn't do much.
yes,
And yeah, I don't know.
I
He was,
don't want to
he,
spoil you. So
he, yeah, I didn't know that he's coming back, but I
yes,
think he's pretty weak when he got defeated first.
but he has a comeback and shows that he's strong. I can say that much. But I can understand your opinion just after watching the first season.
Hmm. I mean, I haven't watched. I read.
I thought you watched it actually.
No, I read.
Oh, I'm surprised you consumed the superior medium. That's nice. Then
Yeah,
where
but
would it
I
be?
don't know where I am, so I can't continue on.
Oof. You can reread it. Reading Dora is great because it's very confusing your first read. I really like my second read, so I would
So
recommend it.
where will we put him?
I think average is a good placement. I would put him in good, but I can see why you would put him in average until the point
Yeah,
where you feel.
okay, then let's put him at average.
Yes.
Okay, next one is Jäger.
Yes. I know with twist, but I don't know how we get there and what he does after he becomes evil, so you need to convince
Um,
me. You can spoil, I don't care.
so he basically sees the future through his father's eyes, and so basically he knows everything what will happen to him, and that he's going to start rumbling and then gets offed by Mikasa and stuff. But I can see his beliefs. I don't I don't I don't support them, but I can understand them. Let's say it that this.
Yes. Most villains you should
Um,
not support, but you can understand them, even though they are wrong.
mm, but for me, overall, he's I would put him at the end of good. He does this bad things for the people of his country. He takes the blame for everything, so the other people can be free.
Yeah, I can understand it. Plus, he has a cool twist that he becomes a villain because he started out
Mm,
as our protect, so
yes.
that's fine.
Okay, let's go on with Estef. And
She has some
if,
qualities at least.
yes, if we would rate only them, she's peak. But we rate their villainous. Um, yes. Estef, I think she's a cool villain per se. Yeah, but she's way too OP, and yeah, it's very weird that he falls in love with the main character and then kiss her and the main character.
Yandere.
Hmm. But overall, I think she's average.
Yes. But I kinda like her introduction. Or at least
Yes.
the way that she got introduced that she actually caught how was the guy's name again? The main character that he was captured by her. So there was
Hmm.
a bit of suspense when he was captured and they were stranded at this island because it was kind of unpredictable what would happen.
Yeah,
Sadly, the
true.
solution was very simple and basic. That was disappointing, but at least there was a bit of suspense.
Hmm.
So, end of average is, I think, fine.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, next.
I put her in
Oh,
fraud. I'm I slipped and put her into fraud, but I corrected.
but our next villain is definitely a spot where for fraud.
Yes.
Shogo. Um, I hear some people say Joe Goat, and I think, bro, what the fuck did you smoke? He's a
Nah.
fucking fraud, bro.
Yes. He's there to fight. He always loses.
Hmm.
Plus, he's kinda annoying. His
Yeah.
voice in the anime is a bit too high pitched.
Hmm.
I mean, he has this one cool fight in the end, but that's it.
Yes.
So, do you find him or Boros worse?
Him.
Okay.
Is Kaido your pick?
You are Kaido.
Yeah, I'm Kaido. For me, there's only one option to put Kaido in. It's Fraud. I
Yes.
mean, he defeated Luffy twice, but he didn't take the fight serious and lost because of it. Yeah,
Kaido
he's.
is one of the most wasted villain in shonen history. He had
Yes.
such a big build up, then in the end there was nothing. Nothing. His flashback was pathetic. Even though there could
True.
be some really cool flashback. Him as this kind of failed Joy Boy or failed Pirate King contender. Because he was like Luffy in the beginning, a happy guy when he freed King, for example.
Hmm.
But we didn't see the moment that broke him, or why did he become depressed in the end. So
Yeah.
he was just a big fighty guy who had 10 years of build up. That's why he's fraud.
Hmm.
But I would still put him at top of fraud because he looks cool in the anime. There are some cool shots of him.
Yeah. Definitely.
For example, the clash that he had with Yamato. He looked really menacing in that scene.
Hmm.
You have also
Okay.
the next two. You're
Yes.
on a roll.
Hmm. Yoshikage Kida. I think you won't be in sync with my decision, but I will put him in average because he has some cool moments over the story of Diamond is Unbreakable, but yeah, it's not enough to put in at good or peak.
I'll put him end of good or beginning of average. Because if you take just him, he is an average villain. But I think he fits his story perfect because it's a slice of life story in a small country town. And it's nice that there's some serial killer hidden in this town and always staying secret. So he fits the story
Mm.
perfectly well.
Yes.
Plus, I like that he's quirky. For example, he got caught because after he beat the gang, how was how was the little guy called again in part 4?
Mm. She, she, she,
I
I don't know.
The small guy from part 3
Yes.
who had the
Ah,
stand. Ah?
I don't know. I don't know.
You blue balled me. Again, he won, and after he won, the little guy had his sock on run, on wrong. So he fixed the sock of little guy, and because of that, got caught. If he didn't want to put order on the socks of a little guy, he could have just ran away and never would be found out. But because of his take that everything needs to be in order, he got caught.
Mm.
I kind of liked that scene.
Oh, you mean the guy with echoes?
Yes, this guy.
Ah, uh,
Kyochio or something like that was it, I think. Something like that.
yes.
So in the end, we can put him on top of average. I can live with that.
Yeah. The next one is also from me.
Yes, I know the character, but I don't know the full character because I have watched, I think, 2/3 of Code Geass.
Yeah, then you've watched everything, right?
No, I've watched only 2/3. I got bored.
Ah,
We talked about it in
Le
the podcast already.
Lebronzo doesn't know good, bro.
Says Mr. Demon Slayer, top 1. I see.
The Luge is peak. For me, he's peak. As I said before, I like those chess player villains, and he's one of them. I can place him. Yeah, he's peak for me.
I mean, I don't know his villain form, but I trusted it. If I maybe rewatch the show it someday, I can understand. But he's
You will.
definitely behind Askeladd.
Yeah.
So the next one, finally, a character from my side. It's Makima, a peak villain, I would argue. Because she has everything that a good villain needs. First and foremost, a plot twist, because in the beginning of Chainsaw Man, you don't know that she's a villain. Secondly, like Lelouch, she controls everything behind the scenes and plays chess basically as well and manipulates everything. Thirdly, she also has beliefs that you can understand because she also just wants to do good for humans, but in her own crude way. So that's why Makima is also one of the greatest villains. She has everything that I need from a villain.
Yes.
Plus, something that we have not talked about before is stuff that a villain do that breaks you. Like, for example, when Akainu killed Ace, when Makima killed Power and basically Aki, when Griffith did his thing with Casca. That stuff. When a villain does something really wild that wrecks you emotionally.
Mm.
So, where would you put Makima?
I would also go with Peak.
But where in Peak? That's the deciding question.
Behind Ocelot.
I can live with
And
that.
before Lelouch.
Yes. Another Michael Jackson appeared.
In this one, I would go with average because, I mean, he only appeared slightly in. He appeared first when they were in the big city. I
I
think it was
remember that
Tokyo.
scene. Where they
And
went kind
he,
of an entertainment district, right?
yes, and he scratched a human and turned him into a demon to distract Tanjiro from him.
Ah, yes, this guy.
Um, yes, but sooner, like in the Hashira training arc, he had a menacing walk with a lot of aura around him. He was basically aura farming. But in the Infinity Castle arc and the Sunrise arc, he gets some moments. He's a cool villain, but some wasted potential actually. So average for me.
Where an average?
Uh, behind Dio, I
Yes.
would say.
But I can see a pattern that we have 3 vampire boys in our list, and all of them have aura at least. And are aura farmers. So,
3? I see 2.
Dracula, the literal vampire.
Ah, okay.
Dracula is the vampire of vampires. Without him, Dio and Musa wouldn't even exist. So, the next one is my favorite villain, so I need to do some heavy lifting. It's Sato, a friendly old man on the outside, but a wild terrorist on the inside. You would like him as well because Sato is a gamer like you. So, I would ask you a following question. If you'd be a war veteran like Sato, who wants to go again to war and wants to kill because that gets his blood pumping, and he gets the ability that he's undying and always regenerates his wounds, and is also a gamer and likes to play shooters like COD and so, what would you do with your new powers? Yes, play COD in real life, right? He's just, and because of that, he's unpredictable. You think he has a plan, but he doesn't. That's really nice because when he's doing what he does, midway you think, oh, he has a plan and he's doing that. But then Sato thinks randomly, ooh, that's boring. I'm going to do something else, and the whole story changes randomly. So he's unpredictable, cool, has aura, and is relatable because he's a gamer. And that's why he's peak. And he has the most aura of a villain. I mean, he's a murdering terrorist who does nothing good, but I still root for him and want him to win because he's cool.
Okay.
So he's definitely peak.
I see.
But I would put him besides Lelouch because there are the peak villains that one of us only knows. Makima and Askeladd we both know. The final one, probably the most popular on this list. Sukuna from Fraud Kaizen. Where would you put him? I think it's a mixed bag.
I think Pre-Shibuya, he's actually top of good, but later
Even
on,
after Shibuya, when he comes out and has his action, let's say it like that.
but his ending was definitely a fraud ending.
Fraudulent. Yes.
Yes. I don't know. I would go with average because of the ending was complete fraudulent.
Yes. Because in the beginning he was really cool.
Mm.
What I really liked, he was, you know, the inner beast concept, right? Like in Naruto, for example, or with Sukuna, where you have an evil being in you, in the main protagonist, where you can use the power of this being. But there's
Mm.
also the possibility that the being comes out and wrecks everything. But in most shows, it never happens that the inner beast is coming out and doing something evil.
Yes.
I think Sukuna is one of the only exceptions because he wrecks Shibuya.
Yeah.
So that's why I like him. And he has also aura. But because he's fraudulent, I would put him at the end of average.
Yeah.
Then that's it with our tier list. No ass villains. Some frauds, a lot of average villains, some good ones, and some peak ones where we agreed on, and some personal peak villains from us. Then that's it for the villain episode. Then what will we do next episode? The
Next
answer
episode.
is really simple. You
Yes.
can tell him.
The next episode will. Yeah, you could already guess. It's a recap episode.
It's end of a
Because
month.
yes.
And I think one
So
person of us has a lot to talk about.
I don't know who it is. Is
I
this
don't know.
person in the room?
No, because we are in two
Okay.
separate rooms. Which was the most boomer joke I've done in a while.
See, he's a boomer.
Yes. No, because the anime season's ending, so me as the manga guy, I'm going to hug all the spotlight, obviously.
Yes. And I have a lot of anime to talk about.
Yes, so stay tuned for what anime in winter season was actually good and which anime was fraudulent and skippable. Because you know what it is. When the season ends, some people are starting to binge watch. But you can only binge watch so much before new stuff comes. So I think the Anime Zuma is going to talk about what you should binge watch and what is skippable.
Yes.
Then
I will give you some great hints for this.
see you next week then.
Bye.
Bye.